Greetings everyone, I am Dimitrik and welcome to today's episode of Fryderykraft. If you watched the most previous installment, you would know that we have begun construction on the port of Pensworth down here, where we have built these two massive brick warehouses. These two buildings are responsible for the storage of tons worth of goods coming in and out of the port of Pensworth. We have also removed all the items previously stored in the old Pensworth Gate and transferred them into this warehouse over here, which serves as our main storage system, freeing up the lovely historic site for future public use. Thank you for joining me on this warm spring day where the last bits of frost are thawing away and I have some amazing plans for the city in this episode. As you can see, our skyline is rather limited, where we have one main building and a smaller building off to the side being our second tallest in the skyline, and I wish to expand upon it in this episode. But first, there is one thing I would like to do. Coming into the Wren Street Public Office, where our Urban Planning Commission is, going up the first flight of stairs, we arrive on this floor where we have a map of the city. Now, if you take a look at the map, it is rather old and outdated, so I think it is time we ought to update it. So before we get to doing anything, I would like to take our map and update it so that we have a good idea on what the city currently looks like before we do any more planning. And courtesy of the Atlas Association, we may take these maps and have them replaced with a more recent rendition. The Atlas Association has also taken the previous maps, copied them, and archived them, as that is one of the reasons why the organization was founded. Near the beginning of the server, before there were any buildings or even trees cut down on the island, I did take some maps and chart the entire island before we had any development and locked them and placed them somewhere around over here underneath a tree. Unfortunately, those maps have been corrupted, the original ones, but I do have some pictures of the island before there was any development on it, but the original maps have been corrupted, unfortunately, which prompted us to found the Atlas Association, which handles all the cartographic affairs within the city and the wider server itself, which is very nice, and now we use it to update maps of the city as well as keep some archives of the growth of the city so we can see it change over time. Going back to today's project, now for building our skyscraper, which will be located in our central business district, the CBD being this cape right here on this larger one on the island. Currently, we only have this southern area built up with these two tall buildings we have outside. Recently, this past August, we have filled in two plots, this one being the building we are standing in right now, and this brown building in the corner. First skyscraper being built in July of 2024, but the city is receiving a second one in this plot right here. As we do have these two plots filled in, this empty plot right here is the next most obvious direction for our urban expansion. So now for some site assessment, we will be going outside all the way to our building site. Right here, we have this beautiful corner plot, very optimal location at these crossroads right by the square and the jelly gardens off in that direction. We will have nice, beautiful white Portland stone skyscraper akin to that one right there, albeit this one will be a little bit narrower and a little bit taller. In fact, this will become the new tallest building in the city of Erected. Right now, our tallest building, I believe, is this one right here, the first skyscraper, followed closely by the City Hall right there. This one is at 141. And the pinnacle of the City Hall is at 140, but half block taller due to it being a fence, though I do not know if this really counts as a hitbox for the fence. It's a little bit past where the visual height of the fence is, but this one will be around 17 or 18 blocks higher than this one. So, as I said before, it will be a nice white building with, if you have been watching this series long enough, you've guessed it, with a mansard roof. It'll be nice Edwardian Baroque style, with very nice detailed windows, where we have a grand ground floor right here, the base, with some floors above it, and then we have a nice shaft of repeating sections where I want to have this sort of window which is 5 blocks wide, where we have two areas separating. I believe it is a Venetian window or something of that sort. I don't know if that was the exact correct terminology, but we will have the gun around to the height of where this section of this building is, and then we will have a nice capital where we have a nice arched window and our mansard roof towering over the city, being able to be seen from the square, adding a nice addition to our skyline. So let's get to building, and when that is completed, I will be coming back. And standing atop the city's medieval belfry, we get a nice view of the skyline of Erected with its newest tower right in view. Looking very nice. This tower will be a very nice spot to view the evolution of the Erected skyline in the years to come. But with our second tower in the city, we have this nice, lovely slated mansard roof at the top, towering over the city. Right below it, we have this more decorative section where we have these small pediments to add a little bit more shape. Below it, we have our topmost floor with windows giving you a panoramic view of the city. Down below that, we have these expansive tall windows in this arch right here, with these pilasters on the side to frame it nice and well, and below that we have this repetitive shaft of windows, perfect for office space or possibly apartments in the future. So coming down from our ancient tower, going over to our more modern tower, going across through the promenade, and onto our bridge, you can see that the Church of Matthew Patthew is being eclipsed by the Edwardian Baroque edifice towering behind it. Quite a testament to time and expansion of the city. But walking through the Jelly Gardens, if we are to enter the gardens and take a seat on one of these benches over here, you do get a very lovely view of the tower from sitting down. In fact, this is the new tallest tower in the city, and there are quite a few views of the tower that I found throughout the city which I particularly like. So, first, going into Erected Square. In Erected Square, if you take a walk back near the City Hall towards the Old Town, get this nice view of the current skyline with the density going up further as it goes into the Central Business District. But this is a perfect frame for someone entering this section of the city from the Old Town. Imagine walking through the narrow, quaint streets of the Old Town, and then you're immediately greeted with this sight. In the future, there will be some more towers to make it even more of a view. But moving on to our next viewing point, going past the City Hall, then go over to the City Hall Gardens on the west side of the City Hall, where we have one of the most beautiful facades of the City Hall, the Western Wall, where we have this beautiful gable up here with the two towers on the side framing it very nicely with this nice open window. But if we are to take a seat at this other bench, you do have the tower towering over the square behind this hotel right here, looking very nice. And for the last lovely view that I have discovered that I would like to show you, we must go inside of the City Hall. It has been a while since we have been inside this building on camera. But here we have our grand hall of the City Hall, the ground floor where you can have parties and whatnot. Going up the stairs into this room, into the bigger party room that's a little bit more exclusive. Go into this room out to the balcony, where you get another very nice view of the skyscraper as well as the density going up as you enter the business district. This looks very nice. And back onto the street layer, if we go across the street and view the building as the normal average citizen would be able to view it, you can see that there is a nice big entrance right here with this arched door with some cast iron work back there. As this is a steel frame structure in this age of skyscrapers, and we do have a keystone on top of the arch, nice detail just to make the arch a little bit more complete. Directly above that, we do have this rusticated section right here where we use some quartz stairs and blocks that are stacked on top of each other to create this rusticated feel. And above that we have the same, except we do have these columns going up and down to add a little bit more detail. And what I did for these windows right here is that they are 5 blocks wide, but I did put some walls on the second block and some trapdoors on blocks closest to the edge to make the windows a little bit different size, and it does look very nice. And that is a tip that you can use in your builds if you choose to do so. And this side of the street over here is the same as the one on that side, so not too much different. But I do really like this building, and it has made a wonderful addition to the city. The next project in today's episode takes us not too much further in the same area in the city. Turning across this corner, we are greeted with these two buildings, the tax office and the post office respectively, and if you have been here long enough, these buildings were actually erected in the first video I ever made, yet they still lay empty despite their supposedly important uses for the city, being the tax office and the post office. In fact, when the citizens pay their taxes to the city hall, they actually leave them in this chest right here, which is very unprofessional and not a very good look for the city, as where is the tax money even going? Is it going into the Prime Minister's pocket? No, the tax money went into these spires up here. But today is the day that changes, and we will be building the interior to both the tax office and the post office, which will be rather easy, as whatever I build in this part of the post office I could just replicate over here on this side. Though there is this extension over here which I believe was built in the skyscraper episode. If I am mistaken, it was built in the episode where we cleared the hills and built that building, but either of those two was when I built the extension to this one on the corner of the street. So what are we doing? So we do have a rather grand post office in the center of the city where we have these large windows. So we will have this nice neoclassical interior where you're able to come in and be greeted with nice wall of barrels where you may put your post and perhaps even send it somewhere. I don't know how we will do that, but it will serve as a nice place to have some post office boxes in case player might want to give something to another one. We do currently have an old post office over off in this direction. Entering into Old Town, going past Fleming Street, we can see the Glessing Gate back there, and you have this tower right here, which stands out very tall. And if you were wondering what this building is, this is the current post office for the city of Erected, where if you go inside, there are some boxes for all the players to be able to send stuff to each other. It actually only opened last year, I believe, which is very recent. In fact, those buildings over there have stood for around twice as long as this post office has been opened, but nonetheless, we must get to completing that project from years ago. And after years of stalling, we can finally call this project complete. And here we have our post office and tax office finished in all of their glory. So taking a look at the tax office first, as it is smaller, we are first greeted with this nice reception desk, and behind it we have the box where we are to drop off our taxes at the end of each month. We also have a lectern and book explaining the protocol for the taxation. And back here we have an ender chest and a crafting table. I do not need to explain what those do. And we also have this dark oak sapling, as before I did the inside there was a dark oak sapling planted here several years ago, and I just decided to take that and plant it here to be nice. Going up the stairs, come up to this room with the balcony access, where you can have a nice view of the square and the city hall and the skyline on the other side. Very nice, but there isn't much in this room other than large windows and a very nice floor. And up here we have this empty room, probably to be filled up with desks for the bureaucrats to slave away processing the taxes of the citizenry. And coming back down, can now take a look at the other building. So out this door and coming into post office over here, it looks almost identical, albeit mirrored. And here we have the same reception desk. Over here we have this post box right here for you to deliver items to the post office to be sent elsewhere throughout the server. We have another book explaining what to do. In essence, what you will have to do is take a book and quill, put the address on where you're sending it to, or coordinates, put that in a bundle, and all the remaining items in either a bundle or shulker box of the same color, and put into the delivery. We also have the ender chest and crafting table, probably more useful in this building than the other one. Over here we have the letter boxes for the citizens of the server. Currently, none of them have been claimed, as we do have the other post office over there, which is currently in use. But the inside of here also looks very nice. A nice neoclassical stone room with columns and a coffered ceiling. Going up the stairs once again, we have the same room up here, large windows to get a nice view of the city hall as the sun sets. Looks absolutely beautiful. We also have another room off to the side over there. I could not find a use for this one. Going upstairs once more, we have some more offices for the bureaucrats of the city managing the postal system. Another view of the tower up here. Be a very nice office to work in. And once again, out the balcony, you can have a nice view of the city hall and a view of the other side of the street. I think that the other balcony has a nicer view, as you can't really see much of the skyline, but it is a very nice area to stand and hang around. Now that it is morning, we stand under the arcade of the post office, getting a nice glimpse of the city hall, where I am very proud of the work I have done, as these are two very important buildings of the city. In fact, they were built in the first episode I ever released, and they have sat vacant for so long, and now they have a use. And gone are the days where taxes are just filed in an informal chest standing outside the city hall, as was done for many years. Now we have an actual place to put them, which is very nice. Now, unfortunately, it is now time for me to end today's episode, but before my sign-off, I would like to enter the City Hall one more time. And atop the stairs and onto the balcony, we get a nice view encompassing the entire square below us, with our two office buildings on the side framing the street, creating a gate to the city's major thoroughfare. And off to the side, we have our newest construction towering over the city, engulfing afternoons in gray shadows. Today, it remains the predominant structure of the skyline, but that title will be challenged. Its preeminence is only temporary in an ever-expanding city, but today it gets to keep that title, as its brother mere paces away once did. Now, I thank you for watching this video if you have made it this far. Be sure to leave a like or subscribe if you have enjoyed the content and wish to see more. And I thank you for your viewership, and may I always remain amongst your most faithful and obedient of servants.